Hi, this is Umair. I'm the founder and CEO of tkxel and also a host on Better Tech. At Better Tech, we try to bring in founders, CTOs, CEOs like yourself, and try to learn about their journey, their products, and so on and so forth. So welcome on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Nice meeting
So
you.
wonderful. So, I mean, the format is pretty conversational. So we would love to understand your journey, how you started even before that, how the company is coming along, with the stage of the company. So why don't you take the initial few minutes and introduce yourself and maybe tell us a bit more about the company as well.
Okay, no problem, of course. So, hi, my name is Ohad Babrov. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Talon. And I'm working in the security industry for the last 20 plus years. I started in the Israeli Defense Force.
You may want to speak a bit louder.
Okay, start again? Okay, so...
That's good. Yeah.
Okay, so hi, my name is Ohad Babrov. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Talon. I'm working in the security industry for the last 20 plus years. I started in the Israeli Defense Force in the unit 8200, been there 7 years in a different technical position. After that, I worked in a few companies. And around 10 years ago, I founded a company named Lacoon, which was the first mobile security solution for enterprise mobile devices. We got acquired by Checkpoint in 2015. And at Checkpoint, initially I managed the mobile security area. And then after a year, I got promoted to a VP. And so I also managed a few other areas in Checkpoint in my department, all in all around 200 people. And in the last 2.5 years, we are working on Talon. Right.
Okay.
And
go ahead.
So what we are doing now, we are solving a very significant problem of the hybrid workforce. So as we all know, people now want to work from any device, they want to work from anywhere, and they want to access different web applications. And the common dominant for all of that is the browser. Okay, so if you go to most employees in most organizations, if you ask someone in HR, marketing, sales, usually they will access their corporate services with the browser. But from the other hand, browsers are currently a consumer product. And that means that if you want to provide visibility, security, control to the organization, it's a very cumbersome job. And what we are providing in Talon, we are providing an enterprise browser that enables organizations to provide this flexibility from one hand, but also to ensure that its data is protected and controlled by the organization.
Okay, so I mean, I understand that perhaps the most widely used application on any computer is that it has to be a browser. I mean, I open my laptop and we have countless tabs of a browser open, and I guess it's been ages that I've opened up any other application. So you're right on the fact that browser is one of the most used application, and be it on a personal level or a professional level, that's potentially the only used application over a desktop. Now, creating even a browser itself is a significant undertaking. I mean, we have seen browsers right from the era of Netscape, Internet Explorer, Firefox, and Safaris, and then Chromes of the world. And at one point in time, I mean, the browser was very slow, etc., etc. Then Chrome came in, and Chrome was pretty fast, but Chrome has its kind of a bunch of security flaws, and I mean, it has trust-related issues. Safari has its own stuff. So creating browser that can work with wide variety of the web protocols, as well as all the advancements that we see in JavaScript-based tech. And creating a security browser on top of it is a significant undertaking. So walk us through a bit of all your journey on this browser. Are you using some kind of an open source browser underneath and building on top of that, or you have created a browser yourself? So walk us a little bit in detail over there.
So great question. So First of all, of course, you are right. Building a browser from scratch is almost an impossible job.
Yeah.
Luckily for us, what happened around 2.5 years ago, and this is actually one of the enablers of this category, is that actually, so Chrome is actually 99% an open source project named Chromium. And Microsoft 2.5 years ago, more or less, decided that Edge is going to also run on top of Chromium. So they rewrite Edge to run on top of Chromium. And basically now the majority of browsers in the world is built on top of Chromium. And on top of Chromium, there are also other browsers, like for cars, for TVs, that you are not usually even familiar with it. And the fact that we are able to provide an enterprise browser is first of all because there is an open source project that enables us to provide the user the exact same user experience that he would get on Chrome, but with lots of enterprise control. The problem with Chrome is that Google, of course, is very interesting to understand exactly what you are doing in the browser, because their business is to understand exactly what is your habit and what you would like to see. And they also add lots of tracking capability, to make sure that they're able to pinpoint your
advertising revenue. Advertising revenue is their main stuff. So there's a lot of tracking in there.
Exactly. And the other things is that because browser need to run on any platform, so Windows, Mac, mobile, so everything in the browser is encapsulated inside it. So for example, it comes with its own I/O layer. It comes with its own memory management, with its own network stack. And if you try to understand what's happening inside the browser, it's pretty difficult. So I'll give like one or two examples. So for example, nowadays, all the traffic is encrypted. Okay. So if you want to understand what's happening inside the browser, you need to do what it's called, so you need to deploy a certificate on the device. You need to proxy the traffic to a gateway, usually in the cloud. And then you need to encrypt all the communication just to be able to scan it. And this is what the majority of the security solution nowadays are doing. But instead, if we are the browser and we have our agent embedded as part of the core of the browser, we are able to do it all locally in a much similar way without using all this costly infrastructure.
Okay.
A second example would be something around a VDI, Citrix, unmanaged devices. Okay, so usually you're using this kind of technology to separate the corporate data and the personal device. So you will connect to a remote device and you'll do everything on this device. And it makes lots of sense when we have many desktop applications, let's say 10 years ago. But nowadays, when most of what you're doing is browser-based, so instead of having the need to connect to a remote device and only get like a video of the browsing to your local device, so we can provide a browser that prevent any data leakage from the browser outside. And also, if you have a malware on the device, we will block any attempt to extract information from this corporate browser.
Okay.
So,
go ahead.
No, so in many senses, what we're able to provide you a browser with much more layer of control, and specifically, it's even more relevant. We're talking about different type of devices, different type of use case. So unmanaged device, subsidiary, franchise, all of them are devices that you don't fully control, and you still want to protect your data as an organization.
So, I mean, in terms of your browser, Talon and versus ordinary Chrome, one thing is that you're giving a lot of control and a lot of on the browser to the enterprise, and obviously they can. I mean, the intrusion of a malware is restricted to, and what I mean for layman or from ordinary development perspective and other, what could be some other differences that you provide as compared to, let's say, if I open up simple Chrome versus, is it the cookies? Is it the way they store the password, certain encryption? Is it something, I mean, the data they transport? I mean, so what are some of the other differences?
Perfect. Okay. So first of all, I would say that Chrome is doing a pretty good job. So
Yeah.
it's true that Chrome is the application with the most vulnerability every year in the last, I would say at least 10 years, but it's because it's such a desired target. But still, Google is doing a pretty good job in terms of the basic web security of Chrome. The problem is that because it's a consumer product, they need to have much more or less one size fit all. Okay,
Yeah.
so you need to have one security policy that is being used when you are now browsing to CNN or when you are browsing to Salesforce or to your AWS management console, which of course they are very different in terms of the threat. And what we are able to do, we are able to provide organization different controls statue in every, depending on the application that you are browsing, that you are currently browsing to. So for example, if you are browsing to a news site, it's not, we can do whatever we want. But when you are browsing to a sensitive application with sensitive data, we have a much more strict policy, okay, that will make sure that you won't be able to extract information, that a threat actor won't be able to extract information from it, okay? And if I will give a couple of specific example, okay, so one example is around hardening the browser and the cookie, okay? So we are able to make sure, because we are a client-server solution, we have a backend that we can also leverage to add another layer of security on what you can do if you are only a client-side application, like a consumer browser.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Secondly, we can add control to make sure that you won't be able to screen capture the information. You won't be able to copy paste data from the browser outside.
So I just had a question. So assume I have opened up my Salesforce, and or some contact database, and it has a list of records or a patient database. Now, normally within the application or within the Salesforce, I can create policies and profiles that will stop anyone from extracting data, but still people can do screen captures. So you would prevent that as well.
Yes, so we will prevent that as well. And secondly, Salesforce is a very, very mature application that can provide you a lot of control. But if you go to the SaaS number 50, not 300, but 50, it won't have the same level of control. And of course, when you go to organization, they have hundreds of different SaaS services with different level of control. And we can provide one single pane of glass that you can have the same policy to any application that you're using through the browser. Okay.
So that's that part. Now walk us through a little bit of your journey in terms of getting this into enterprise, because enterprise sales cycles are hard. They typically do not trust every new application. At the end of the day, if they are trusting your browser, they're trusting your company, and I mean trusting a few, maybe a bunch of certification or whatnot, if they are giving access to the browser that you kind of own, and that's so walk us through how the enterprise received it, what's your target market, and how it's working out with them.
Perfect. So first of all, we are selling to enterprises. Okay, so it's not we are not trying to sell to SMB. So we are selling to enterprises, starting with, let's say, 1,000, 2,000 people, up to the largest enterprise in the US. I think that like you said, first of all, it's about trust. I think that luckily both me and my co-founder offer both. It's our second journey. We already build product that serve millions of endpoint devices across hundreds of very large enterprise companies. So we do know what we need to do. Secondly, what we usually suggest to companies is not start with the most hardest or the most complex use case. We do believe that initially you need to start with a very, very specific use case. Okay, so for example, it can be allowing contractor to access your data. We just published, I think 2 weeks ago, a survey saying that most of the contractors are able to access corporate data from their personal device, but the corporate doesn't have any control. So if there is a malware on this device, he will be able to extract all the information.
Yeah.
So we believe that you should start with with specific use case. And from there, what we already saw is that once you get confident with the technology, with the product, when you see that you get so much more value and visibility, you can go upper and you can add more and more use case. I think that luckily for us, a browser, because they are de facto the OS, the operation system of most employees, there are so many different use cases that are relevant that you can solve with an enterprise browser, is that almost every organization that we talk to have some use case that are relevant for him, some pain point that currently try to solve with a much more costly and complex solutions.
Mm-hmm. How does the pricing work for your product? Is it kind of on a per user basis, usage base? How the pricing metrics work?
So it's per user. So it's per user per month. Usually it's an annual contract. It's a bit similar to an EDR pricing. So other endpoint solution pricing. Of course, with volume, it's a differ a bit. Yeah. So.
Okay. So I mean, for organizations maybe like us who have engineers who are where software is being developed as well, so you have to many times tinker a lot with browser, but at the same time you would like to limit the access to certain applications and you want to secure access to certain applications. So how does your browser allow this kind of a mix and match, or do I have to install two separate browsers and limit the access? How it works?
No, so of course, like I mentioned before, one of the crucial benefit of using an enterprise browser is you can set a very accurate policy. So, for example, if you are now a developer, you'll have one set of policy because maybe you are most concerned about phishing, okay? Because developer also can get attacked by a phishing or download malicious content. But if you are let's say someone in finance, so maybe you won't need access to all the developer tools that the browser has. So we can provide you a very accurate access according to the user, according to the application that you're currently using. So like I said before, when you're using one application or other, you might have a different policy, and also according to other parameters where you are. So maybe if you're on the premise of your environment in office, maybe you have one security policy, but when you are browsing from a coffee shop, and you're also potentially can be exploited with a network attack, so maybe we have more strict policy. Mm-hmm. So we can provide a very rich and a gratifying control for different use cases.
Sounds good. So switching gear to understanding about your funding, your size of the company. So since how long have you been doing this product, and how many rounds of funding you guys have raised? How big is your tech team, sales team? Talk to us more about that.
Okay, so we start working on Talon a bit more than 2 years now. Okay.
So you started right within COVID because of the hybrid work or something?
Actually, COVID was a main incentive to start working with it. So what we saw that many people start, in one day need to start working from home. And of course, back then, people didn't have like the infrastructure, to support so many people working from home. And it was very sudden, right? So financial institution that before that didn't allow anyone to work outside of the office need in one day need to switch to a completely different mode. But even tech companies, so they've, some people working from home, but not as in such portion. So this was without that a very important incentive to start to fund the company. Luckily for us, we were able to raise our seed fund of $26 million a few months after that. Okay, and the company we start working on the product early 2020. Okay, a few months ago, so we have a very good year. So in the beginning of the year, we won the RSA Innovation Sandbox, which is the most important security startup contest in the world by large, and had a couple of very strategic partnership with Microsoft and CrowdStrike. And all of that led us to raise another round of $100 million, okay, that we raised a few months ago. Actually, it was already in this time that is, of course, much more challenging. So I think that in many sense we are lucky that we didn't raise in the happy years of 2021 that, people raise unreasonable amount of money unrelated to where the company is. So we raised around already when things were not that good. But of course, we have a very long, very long time now, and we do see a significant growth in the business. We are currently around 90 people in the company. I would say 2/3 of them are in the R&D. Okay, we are still, you said it before, developing a browser, even though we are built on top of Chromium, it's still a very, very complex job.
Right.
It's not so it's not a web security solution that you can, you get an access key and you can start you have something very, very soon. But we are investing a lot in the product. We are lucky, I think, that to be able to attract, some of the most talented people in Israel. Okay, that in terms of the R&D, so people that actually did quite a lot of work trying to break into Chromium. Okay, so very, very good familiarity with the browser itself. And yeah, actually we are growing quite rapidly now. So when everyone now is shrinking, we are trying to grow.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful to hear. And I mean, as you are moving along, I mean, have this recession, I mean, you raise your money before recession, kind of, or the voice of recession. So are you looking at some of the effects that recession has brought in? I mean, slow uptake. I'm sure raising money is a little bit challenging now, but even from the traction point of view, are companies still spending like anything to get products like yours?
So I would say that, you do feel that companies are more cautious about spending in the last couple of months. I would say that one of the benefits that we have is that in many cases, we are able to actually save money. So when you are thinking about a Citrix or a VDI solution,
right,
this solution costs a lot. So they can cost, some estimate can be $100 per user per month. Okay, for the total cost of ownership, because you need to have a server, you need to have network bandwidth, and you need to have many people managing the solution. When you're using the browser, it's something that you only install on the device. It's much lighter. You don't need a very costly infrastructure, and we are able to provide a much cheaper solution. And actually, companies are looking at us in some cases because they want to save money. They want to remove a lot of their security stack and also to have something which is very, very focused on the browser, but which will give you all of it in one from one.
By the way, do you have a competitor around? I mean, who is in browser space, or is it just you guys?
No, so there are a couple of vendors that are also started, around our time. It's still a new category, so it's still a very, very early stage category, and I think that competition, specifically when you are starting a new category, competition is good because you need to have more public awareness, and you need to make sure that CISOs are familiar with the concept of enterprise browser. So actually, we are welcoming competition. So if you want to find a company, enterprise browser is a nice place to.
And what's your what's your vision for that? I mean, do you see it as a standalone product, or would you be opening it up as a platform so people can build on top of it? Where you're taking it as a product?
So I would say that, first of all, almost by nature, browser are a platform. Okay,
right.
So many options of extensibility. It can be that we can provide a private API to specific application, or provide new functionality that are specifically relevant for the enterprise world. I would say that one of the aspects that make us really excited about the vision, us, our customers, our investors, is that assuming that we'll be able to be the browser that employees are using to access to their SaaS services, the opportunity is much greater than security. Okay, and because the browser is de facto the operation system of most of the users in the organization, and we see that everything is moving to the browser, even things that 5 years ago weren't there. So like even the Office suite or Figma or SAP. So now every application has a pretty mature web version, and honestly we are riding on that wave.
Okay, and how this selling part is working? Is it just the company selling directly, or you are building a partner network or resellers network? How it's working it out? And also, have you opened up your dev platform for others, or is it right now it's something of the future?
Okay, so first of all, in terms of the sales, so we do both. Okay, I think that as an early company, you have to have your own sales team. We are currently selling in the US, in Europe, in Israel. So we have our own dedicated team, but we are also working with partners. And I think that it's a best practice, that bring partners, whenever you can. So we are already working with a couple of resellers in all of these regions. Secondly, about opening the platform. So currently, we are working with a specific set of companies that approach us, a very, very large SaaS vendor that want to have, a special feature in the browser that's specific to them. So it's not like open to to everyone, but we are working with a specific set of partners.
Okay. And how probably the last ending questions of this podcast, how you see the overall the security as a segment, as an industry evolving? I mean, you see it as a very fast growing space. I mean, it had been a very fast growing space in the past, especially in the COVID, because every infrastructure have to become hybrid. You're still seeing that momentum going and keep going in the next 5 years or so, or you're seeing a little bit of plateau reaching or so on?
Generally, about security in general, or our category?
Generally? I mean, security in general.
So I think that unfortunately there is just no other way. So currently enterprise has different, has two pressures. So one of them is that you need to be more flexible, more open, because this is what gives you the business advantage. And if you want to be in business, which is, the bottom line, this is the most important thing, you need to be much more flexible. For the other hand, there are more and more security concerns, and even specifically because of the recession, unfortunately, it does drive people, to be more on the aggressive side, let's say. And I think that, what we see is that threats are becoming more and more frequent. So unfortunately, I don't think that there will be a way, to stop investing and making sure that, your customer data is safe, and that that your business continue to work, because, one incident can cause a significant harm, in the reputation and also in money. So I do believe it's going to keep increasing, maybe not in the ratio, in the ratio that happened in the next few years, which was, that was a bit high. Yeah.
Thank you, Ohad. I think it's a wonderful discussion. We got to know about your product, and congratulations of all the success so far, raising money and getting the traction. And I think you're solving one of the very right problems. Enterprise security is definitely, I mean, security for that matter, for any company, a small company or even a large company, it matters. And browser, as we all understand, is one of the most used applications on the planet. So if we can get the browser which is secure, I think it's definitely worth trying. So thank you very much for being on our show, and I hope it will be useful for our listeners, audience, as well as it was wonderful having this discussion with you.
Okay, thank you very, very much for having me. It was a real pleasure. So thank you very, very much.